Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Amy. I'm 21 years old. I'm an English teacher from Derby in the UK. I converted to Islam in February of this year, alhamdulillah. Well, it started a few years ago when I visited Egypt for the first time. I was engaged to a Muslim man, and it was my first time in a Muslim country. And I was very intrigued about Islam because I didn't know anything about it. And I'm the kind of person, I hate to be ignorant about anything. So when I went home, I decided to read about Islam, not to convert, just to know about it. And I was so impressed by the rationality and the simplicity of it. I was never happy as a Christian. I never believed that Isa alayhi salam was my Lord. I always saw him as my prophet. And the fact that Islam says that you only worship your creator, it completely appealed to me. And when it says in the Quran to love and follow the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I couldn't help but fall in love with his beautiful character. The fact that this was a man who stood for justice for all people, Arab and non-Arab, black, white, women, children. I couldn't help but just fall in love with Islam. And Wallah, I was so close to converting, but various things happened in my life and I had to leave my fiancé. So for about a year I went away from Islam, but I felt a calling to come back. One particular night I had a dream where I was back in Egypt and I was just sitting in the mosque that I had visited and I was sitting making dua. I woke up from that dream and I said to myself, Subhanallah, I need to pray salah. I went and prayed 2 rak'ah. I said, oh Allah, you know, if you want me to be a Muslim, then please make it easy for me. And at this time, I was still Sunni. I'd been told by my Sunni friends, don't go near the Shias. The Shias, they worship Ali alayhi salam. They do this, they do that. All this Wahhabi propaganda, which is completely false. So I never considered being Shia. But alhamdulillah, this one day I watched a lecture on YouTube, a Shia lecture, and I was so close to turning it off because I thought this is wrong, I shouldn't be watching this. But out of sheer curiosity, I watched it and it completely changed me. The rationality of it, the simplicity of it, and the intellect was just so admirable. You know, I couldn't help but just be enthralled by it. And I watched more of these lectures, I read more about Shia Islam, and all my misconceptions just completely melted away. And learning about the Imams alayhim salam, you know, learning about Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali alayhi salam, the fact that Allah prepared him from a young age to succeed the Holy Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, and learning about their lives and what the caliphs did to be with Fatima salamullah alayha and what later they did to Imam Hussein alayhi salam at Karbala, I said to myself, how can I be hypocritical and say I love Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam and love their killers? I just couldn't do that. I said no, I'm either with them or I'm with their enemies. And to me it was simple. I was always going to be with the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. So alhamdulillah, you know, Allah, one of his names is the bestower of honours. On the day he chose me to be a Muslim, he said, it's not enough for Amy to be a Muslim. I want her to be a Shia of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. And when I think about it, it blows my mind of how blessed I am to have found this path. Alhamdulillah, shukran lillah. You know, alhamdulillah, you know, when I sit and think of the problems that I face, really they are not problems in comparison to what some reverts have faced. That my family, alhamdulillah, you know, they have always been open-minded. In fact, they have always defended Muslims. When there have been people around us that have said Muslims are terrorists, they did 9/11, they did this, my parents have always said no, real Muslims aren't like that. So when I said to my mum and dad I want to be a Muslim, you know, they said just whatever makes you happy, Amy, you know, we just want you to be safe, we want you to be happy. And don't get me wrong, there has been tensions between me and my parents as such, but I just I just pray to Allah to keep me patient. And alhamdulillah, I feel like as the months go on, it's getting better and better. And with my friends, there were kind of two groups. I had the vast majority of my friends were absolutely brilliant, mashallah. Like, they don't treat me any differently now. They still love me for who I am. But then I had a lot of Christian friends that I made at university, and when they heard that I converted, it broke their hearts. And I actually had some of my friends come up to me in tears saying, "How can you forsake Jesus? How can you do this?" And it hurt me to see them like that. And even to this day, like, they try and persuade me to come back. And I just say to them, like, if you knew what I knew, if you could feel what I feel, like, honestly, you would hold on to it. Even if you were holding on to hot coal, you would still hold on to it. And if you really knew Jesus the way I've learned about Jesus now, you would know that Jesus would follow Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, and that he would never forsake them. And Allah is the all-powerful. Sometimes we limit him, and Allah can do whatever he wants, kun fayakun. I just pray that he will open their hearts, because I feel sorry for anyone who doesn't have Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, who doesn't have Imam Hussein and Abul Fadl Abbas alayhi salam. Well, when I think of the Amy before Islam, Amy was a very broken person. She had faced so many things. She had had so many people whom she had loved, and yet they were cruel to her. She was scared of the world. She was scared of failure. She had no self-esteem. I look at myself now and I say, this Amy is brave. Because the Amy a few years ago, she never would have came to Iraq or any other foreign country by herself. Now I come here and I say, there is nothing to fear. Like, I'm not afraid of any person. Even though Daesh are in this country and they want my blood on their hands, I say, who cares? You're nothing special, Daesh. The only thing I fear is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The new Amy is, wow, she doesn't stand for injustice now. When someone tries to take my rights away from me now, I say no. I won't stand for that, because Bibi Fatima salam Allah alayha, she taught me to be brave. Bibi Zainab salam Allah alayha, she taught me to be brave. If they could stand up in the courts of tyrants and stand for their rights, then why can't I do that? And another thing about the old Amy as well, like, my whole goal in life was just to survive, just to get through the days. I didn't care about anybody else. I just cared about myself. Now, I'm so much more compassionate. I'm so much more emotional. Sometimes I sit and I watch the 6 o'clock news and I see everything that's happening in the world, and it brings tears to my eyes, because it's not just me anymore, it's everybody. And I look at myself and my body and how I've used my body over the years just to please myself, and it's only recently that I've realised that my body is not my own. My body is for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and serving the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. My body gets worth through singing their praises and cursing their killers. And inshallah, I just pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will continue to build me. Whatever blessings or hardships He gives me in my life, I just want Him to build me so that I may serve my Imam Zaman. May Allah hasten his reappearance. Because the greatest blessing that I could have is having a Muslim family to give to Imam Zaman. And when I have given them, for me to give myself to the Imam as well. And even if it means shedding my own blood. And I say this before witnesses, I don't say this so that people say, oh mashallah, what a wonderful Muslim. No, I don't care what people think about me. I say this before witnesses, so that if I go back on my promise to Imam Zaman, then all of you can testify against me on the Day of Judgment that I let my Imam down. And that is the most important thing to me. I think, to me, the definition of intellect is, you know, when you do everything for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's when you get true wisdom. You know, when you, like, alhamdulillah, I haven't even been a Muslim for a year, and yet I have Muslims come up and say to me, you know more about Islam than I do, you know. But that's the thing, when you have the sincerity in your heart that you want to do this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does everything for you. And Bibi Fatima salam Allah alayha, whatever she did, whether she was teaching the ladies of Medina, whether she was looking after her children, looking after her husband, she did it all for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's where true wisdom and true intellect comes from. And, you know, as a woman, like, I have never ever felt inferior to men, you know, and I strongly believe that women, you know, just as Imam Hadi alayhi salam says, sometimes women can even be better than men because of the superiority of their sincerity and their intellect. Oh my God. No, I don't sit here as a righteous woman or a pious woman. I am just a normal woman. I'm just a servant of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. I'm not Bibi Fatima salam Allah alayha, but I'm working on myself. I'm working on trying to be better, to be the best that I can be. And even just being in Karbala for a few days, I feel so much has changed from me. The day I took my Shahada, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He forgave all my previous sins. And it was an experience that choked me. I was shaking from it. And wallah, I never thought I would have that feeling again. But here, I've had that feeling again. As if Allah has forgiven me. And that Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they are with me. And that they are supporting me through their prayers every step. And when I first arrived in Karbala, we arrived on the outskirts of the city, and wallah, every time we turned a corner, I looked for the shrine of Hazrat Abbas. I said, Hazrat Abbas, where are you? I was complaining to him, and I was giving up. I was getting so tired, and I just wanted to sleep at this point. And then we turned this one corner, and I saw Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, and I was just mesmerized, utterly spellbound by what I saw. I said, Abbas, you are so beautiful. If your shrine is so beautiful, then how beautiful are you as a person? And I got there closer and closer, and I was reminded of an event in my life, something that I've not thought about for so long. But a few years ago, I lost my brother-in-law, and it was a gut-wrenching experience for me. And when I was looking at Abbas, that memory came back to me, and I thought to myself, it's as if on that day when I lost my brother-in-law, it's as if Lady al-Baneen salam Allah alayha, it's as if she raised her hands in dua and said, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make Amy a Muslim so that Abbas may be her brother and that Abbas may protect her. And wallah, ever since I've been in Karbala, every time I've stepped out of the hotel, even if I've been on my own, I do not feel alone, and I do not feel scared at all. I feel as if, like, Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam is on my left and Imam Hussein alayhi salam is on my right, and they're walking beside me, and that I have nothing to fear at all. Wallah, I feel beyond privileged. I don't belong to be, I don't deserve to be here, you know. And I think of so many people in the world who aren't Muslims, and how, like, the extent that they'll go to, like, imitate them. Like, they'll dress the same way as these celebrities, they'll have the same tattoos, like, they'll do exactly the same things as them. And yet, like, I feel like now, if I meet a celebrity or a king, a queen, a prime minister, a speaker, whatever, like, I just feel like I'm going to be so underwhelmed, you know. I'll just say to myself, you've met Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. No one's like him. You know, you've met Imam Hussein and Imam Ali alayhi salam. Like, no one I could meet in my life would be more impressive, you know, apart from if I get the chance one day to meet Imam Zaman alayhi salam. Coming from England to Iraq, it's a complete culture shock. Walking around the streets are dirty, they're dingy, they're disorganised, like everything crazy is happening. And for a British girl like me, that, you know, it's completely alien. But the thing about it is, when you're in the vicinity of those shrines, it's like the air changes. There's almost like a softness to the air. Like, so many times I go to places and I feel suffocated by it. But here I feel like I can breathe, and it's so calming. Even when I've been like sardined between like hundreds of people, the air is so soft and kind of comforting in a way. I can't describe it. I've never experienced anything like that. I feel as if like I will never feel sadness again. And like, when I think of like all the pain that I've felt in my life, when I'm by those harams, that pain isn't there anymore. It's just gone. It's like they've just taken all that away from me, and all that emptiness that I felt inside, it's just disappeared, as if it was never there in the first place. I think my body's going to be on that plane, but I'm not going to be there. I'm just going to be here. And it hurts the thought of going away from my masters. You know, when I first arrived here and I was sitting and I was making my du'as to the imams, I said, I feel shy to ask anything from you. And I made pledges with them, and I said, you know, I'm going to be a better person. And I think as soon as I get back to the UK, the first thing I'm going to do is talk to my mum and dad about everything I've done here, because they're not Muslims, and I'm properly going to explain to them about why I love Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam so much. And one thing, you know, when I was speaking to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, I said to him, I want to make a pledge to you, but I don't know what to do. And it's as if I got the idea in my mind, and it said to me, you should be more patient with your parents because they don't understand. And that's one of the first things, inshallah, that I want to do. And not just with them, but with my friends and my sister as well, who, you know, have seen my complete transformation, and maybe they don't understand it fully. And further to that, what another pledge I made was, you know, I'm going to continue with this knowledge that I'm learning. And alhamdulillah, my mosque has, you know, they entrusted me to start giving majalises to the sisters that go there. And I haven't even been Muslim for a year, and yet they have trusted me to do that. And I just know I'm going to put even more effort into those majalises now. I want everyone who attends my majalises to come out with the same passion that I have for Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. And as well, I just, wherever I go, whatever I'm doing, even when I'm doing the most mundane things, whether I'm just going to the gym, I'm just going out with friends, I just want to be a walking example of Quran and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, and tell as many people as I can about them, because, you know, we shouldn't take this for granted for what we have. I feel like every person in the world deserves to have this feeling that I have right now, and I want to share it with everyone, inshallah. Yes, definitely. I've had so many people talk to me about Karbala and what it is like, but Karbala is beyond words, and it is beyond pictures. When you're here and you see the beauty that is surrounding you, you can't put it into words, you can't describe it to people. And this is frustrating for me because I'm an English teacher and I'm a writer. So when I try and kind of tell everyone like my experiences, but I just can't find the right words to do it. And I just say to anyone, you know, anyone who has just a % of curiosity about Karbala, I just say, come here, you know, because my words will never do justice to you to tell you how beautiful and how extraordinary this place is, you know. My final message is to come here, to come to Iraq, and not to be afraid. We hear so many stories about Daesh and our enemies killing us left, right and centre. But I say to my brothers and sisters in faith to not be afraid, because we are the Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. We shouldn't be afraid of anyone. On the day of Saqifa, we had enemies and tyrants. All through history, we have had people who have hated us and tried to kill us, and yet we are more alive than ever. We should not be afraid of Daesh, because they're nothing special, nothing at all. They're just modern day Yazids, modern day Muawiyahs. Imam Hussein alayhi salam tells us that it is better to die on our feet than to live on our knees. Why should we be afraid of anyone?